Sensationalist, welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. It is an open line Friday, 877-973-7425. If you wish to be on the program, we got to get to the John Bolton news here out of the gate. We're waiting for the President of the United States, who said he would be speaking sometime around noon. Let me give you my thoughts on the John Bolton situation. I know John Bolton a little bit, and I am of two minds on this, and I'm not strident on either one. Obviously, my initial gut reaction is that he's been a pretty vocal and open critic of the president. I know people who worked in the president's first term who are afraid of harassment this term, and they're critics and they keep their mouths shut, or they try to be loyalists as publicly as they can because they're worried about being bullied by the president and his team. And obviously, the gut reaction of people on television is that, oh, this is Donald Trump silencing his critics. He's an authoritarian. That's part of my gut. Part of my gut is people who have been in Washington a long time are talking heads and get some level of clout, oftentimes over time as they rise in stature within a movement, think themselves above the law, and there may be a there. They had to go to court and get a warrant. They had to get judicial permission. They had to be able to state the evidence they had. And yes, the cynics will say that give them enough time, they can indict a ham sandwich. Yes, that's true. But they had to go to a court in Maryland where the judges are not necessarily as favorable to the Trump administration as they are in other places. And they were able to get a judge to sign off on a raid of John Bolton's home. So maybe there is a there. All of that is to say, I'm not digging my heels in. During the Biden administration, there were, of course, the raids on Jeff Clark. They perp walked him out of his house, and Roger Stone. There was the Mar-a-Lago raid, and if Democrats think that this is going after your political enemies, they didn't pay attention to what Democrats did to Donald Trump. That doesn't justify this. Two wrongs don't make a right. But for them to say this has never been done before and this is unusual, they haven't been paying attention. They haven't cared. It would be very, very troubling if this were a raid on John Bolton solely to intimidate him or others. And I will tell you, in all candor and honesty, there are those who work for Donald Trump, his first term, who are keeping their mouths shut because they're afraid this is the sort of stuff that he would do. My gut overall, though, tells me this. That's too easy. It's too easy. Here's where I am in society overall, where politics are, where everything, and this, by the way, this is also why I'm somewhat skeptical of a lot of the stuff being trotted out by the Trump team and Tulsi Gabbard on the Obama involvement in the Russiagate stuff. It fits too easy. It just fits too easy into the narrative. The Russiagate stuff, oh my gosh, it turns out every last thing that was believed by the right turns out to be exactly true the way the right believed it. That doesn't happen. And yet that's the Tulsi Gabbard stuff on Obama and who knew what and what they were doing and how they were seeing. That's exactly the way they've scripted this. And it's a script. And it's really convenient that everything you thought was true is true exactly the way you thought it was true. That's not how life works ever. Even the stuff that you think is true that turns out to be true is often true not quite the way you thought it. And yet in this case, exactly so. I don't think that's right. It makes me skeptical. And that's what's going on here with John Bolton. The media wants us to believe that Donald Trump's an authoritarian who is going to send law enforcement, the FBI, after those he disagrees with. And oh my gosh, it's played out exactly as the media predicted in every single way, going after the people they predicted it was going to be. That's just too easy, and life doesn't work that way. So that leads me to believe there might just be a there, and that John Bolton might have flown too close to the sun, might have been riding high in his britches a little bit, and there's something there. That's where I am on this. So all that to say, I'm divided. I do have concerns about both parties bullying people, particularly within their parties, who disagree with them. The Democrats have done it, the Republicans do it. I do. But there's just my spidey sense is that it's just way too conveniently playing to the script the media and Democrats wanted in the same way the Russiagate does for the Republicans. And I just have been around long enough to never see life work exactly that way. When everything falls into place exactly the way you said it would fall into place, confirming every single one of your priors, there's a story being told that isn't quite right. And so that's why I'm not willing to jump immediately to condemnation of, oh my gosh, this is, they're coming for John Bolton because he's a critic. It could very well be he has kept classified evidence and was a source of leaks against Donald Trump. That is the allegation. And you got a federal judge, magistrate at least, to agree to this raid. And it gives the Democrats fodder to talk about. But again, it's like the Republicans in Russiagate. It just lines up too conveniently to all of their presuppositions, and that never happens in reality, which is why I think there could be a there, and I will wait and see. While, by the way, I also think they don't want me to use the R word anymore. People get offended by the R word. The R word. You would never call someone who was that word. You only call stupid people that word for behaving that way. But nonetheless, so we here like to say 30 feet above the runway, because if you fly an Airbus plane and you get to 30 feet over the runway, it starts saying the R word twice to remind you to pull back and slow down. So I think there are a lot of people who are 30 feet above the runway when they're dealing with this sort of thing. And also, I think the people who are really at 30 feet above the runway are the ones who are saying this is to distract from Jeffrey Epstein. There literally were Democrats on television this morning. There's a Democratic congressman saying this is to distract from Jeffrey Epstein. If you believe that the John Bolton raid this morning at 7 a.m. was to distract from the Jeffrey Epstein situation, you are simple Jack flying a plane 30 feet above a runway. I can't express it any other way other than using the R word to describe you, and they have asked me not to use the R word. People get really upset about it these days. Still a perfectly good word. Nonetheless, you're 30 feet above a runway, simple Jack, if you believe that this is about Jeffrey Epstein. If you don't know who Simple Jack is, you should watch Tropic Thunder. Great movie. I highly, highly, highly enjoyed that movie. And while this is happening, we're not talking about what actually should be the biggest story of the day. And this actually is, I think, the biggest story of the day. Jin Chao Wee, known as Patrick Wee, has been convicted of espionage. He sold Navy secrets to a Chinese intelligence officer. Jin Chao Wee, 25 years old, goes by Patrick Wee, was found guilty of 6 crimes, including conspiracy to commit espionage, an unlawful export of, and conspiracy to export technical data related to defense articles in violation of the Arms Export Control Act and the International Traffic in Arms Regulations. He was found not guilty on 1 count of naturalization fraud. Prosecutors said Wee used his position as a machinist mate on the amphibious assault ship USS Essex at Naval Base San Diego to feed information to a Chinese intelligence officer who recruited Wee on social media in February 2022. He held a U.S. security clearance and had access to sensitive national defense information, including the weapons on the Essex. Amphibious assault ships allow the military to project power and maintain presence by serving as the cornerstone of the Navy's amphibious readiness and expeditionary strike capabilities. An attorney for Wee said there was no doubt his client's actions were wrong, but he never intended to harm the United States. According to the news releases, the intelligence officer initially presented himself as a naval enthusiast working for a shipbuilding company in China. First of all, I would note, Mr. President, why have you not complied with the law and shut down TikTok? Why have you not complied with the law and shut down TikTok? The law says TikTok should have been shut down a long time ago. None of us can sue. None of us have standing to sue to make you do it, but you should shut TikTok down. This is yet another person who has spied for China and compromised national security. And we are allowing a Chinese surveillance app called TikTok to reign supreme in the United States. Why are you allowing TikTok to continue in the United States, Mr. President? Second, what the NBC News story leaves out, but what I say is actually true, is you know who encouraged him to continue spying for China? His mother. That's right. Patrick Wee's mother, according to multiple outlets and in trial, encouraged him to continue spying for China so that he could get a good job in China. The mom encouraged the spying. Her son will go to prison because the mom encouraged this. We've been a little bit too licentious in allowing foreigners into the United States to take up citizenship who don't want to integrate into and assimilate into the country, but want to keep their former country as their top priority. We've seen a couple of members of Congress who are immigrants talk about advancing the interests of their former countries, not their present country. We've been a little bit too pushed towards the left on assimilation, where we're a salad bowl instead of a melting pot. We need to get back to the melting pot. We need to do so pretty quickly, I think. We need people to assimilate into the United States, to become part of the United States, not to be Americans, but also with patriotic ties to their former home. It's possible. My grandfather immigrated to the United States. He was Swedish. So was my grandmother. And they were very pro-America and raised their children as Americans, not as Swedes. My father, who is 100% Swedish, has never been to Sweden. It is possible to raise your children as immigrants to be American. I know many Indian and Pakistani families that live in my neighborhood where the kids are as American as you and me. They've never been to India or Pakistan. They love the United States. They have their favorite football team. They have their favorite baseball team. They're as American as you and me. It doesn't mean that only white people can do it. Everybody can do it. We just have to set our minds to doing it. And we should be discouraging the salad bowl theory where everybody keeps their uniqueness in the country. No, we all blend together. A more homogenous country. The taco becomes as American as the hamburger, as American as gumbo, as American as the corn souffle that you serve on Thanksgiving. This is appalling, though, that China continues to do this, and we continue to treat China with kid gloves. I'll believe the president of the United States is taking China seriously as a military threat when he shuts down TikTok, which is, we know, a surveillance collection operation for the Chinese. The president has not yet done that. He's been given ample opportunity to, and he needs to shut down TikTok as quickly as possible in this country. It is a surveillance app for the Chinese, and you will note the Chinese recruited Patrick Wee over social media. I don't know what app. My suspicion is TikTok, but I don't know that that's the case. But they recruited him over TikTok, or over social media, rather. I don't know that it was TikTok. And his mother encouraged loyalty to China. We got to start taking the Chinese way more seriously than we do as a military threat. We really do. And I would urge this administration to go on and get rid of TikTok, because TikTok is part of the Chinese intelligence operation. Also, I think this administration is right to start reviewing the visas of the millions of immigrants who have come to this country on visas, whether or not they're actually assimilating. There was another example yesterday of a person who is an immigrant to this country saying the United States needs to be crumbled because she's upset about our support of Israel. We've had multiple videos this week of immigrants to this country saying the United States in some way needs to be destroyed. Those are the people that we need to deport. And good for Marco Rubio for pushing to deport anyone who's immigrated to this country who wants to destroy this country. This country is the best country, and we will not stay the best country if we don't take seriously our need to lead the world, and that includes taking the bad guys like China seriously. And for those who say, well, we're becoming a banana republic because of John Bolton, again, I just think it's way too convenient, way too convenient. It conforms exactly to the Democrats' narrative, and life is never that simple. And for the Democrats to make hay out of this, I'm going to take a wait and see approach. What actually are the allegations, and what actually did they find, and what actually do they have? And if it really was just a witch hunt to embarrass him and silence him, I'll call him out, because I'm happy to call him out and have been calling him out on tariffs and everything else. But I just don't know yet, and I just think it's way too simplistic of a narrative that this has fallen into for the left for it to actually be true.
Have something to say?